here to talk a little bit about the Northern Lights. Back in Iceland, right now we are experiencing the shortest of the year. They feel short. We have to be content with about 4 hours of sunlight, almost not quite sunlight, it's dusk actually. The sun barely makes it above the horizon. And we appreciate all the light we can get. Of course, the days are getting longer, but it's going to take time for the 24-hour sunlight to hit us again. And in the meantime, we compensate somewhat. Christmas lights are about, and we are reluctant to take them down. We will keep them up until February at least. But there are lights in the skies that also brighten our days. The aurora borealis, the northern lights. It's amazing actually how interested Icelanders have become in the northern lights of late. And I think that when we discovered that this was something that other people wanted to see, were willing to travel long ways to observe and pay for it, we became interested in them. But most of us are actually brought up with the lights blazing above our heads as we grow up, and therefore we sometimes tend to be a little blasé about it. But the Northern Lights, remarkable as they are, and obviously visible, highly visible, there is no mentioning of them in the sagas, the old literature that we call the sagas, written in the 12th and the 13th century. It's amazing. It's like the Northern Lights did not exist for the Vikings. Still, the old pagan belief, Ásatrú, talks about this bridge that lies between Middle Earth and Valhalla. It's called Bifröst, and most people take it for being the rainbow, the route that souls would take, those that died in battle or honorably would be allowed to travel along Bifröst, which actually means the moving wave. And I often think that it could very well be the Northern Lights as well, or refer to the Northern Lights. Bifröst, the moving waves. They actually look a lot like moving waves of light. Whether that is true or not, we do have, even though we don't have any references to the Northern Lights, we have this brilliant name in Old Icelandic for the Northern Lights. They are called Hálogar, high flames. Actually a part of Norway, way up north, well, sort of the middle as well, stretches down south. It's called Hálogaland, the land of the high flames. I don't know if they were named after the Northern Lights. It could be. Hálogaland, a beautiful name. But according to our sagas, according to our history books, there is no mention of the Northern Lights there. We have to touch down with 15th century poetry to find the first reference to the Northern Lights in Icelandic literature. And there they are talked about in a very, very fanciful way as the class of the weapons of the Valkyria as they ride into battle. The Valkyria being the women warriors of Norse mythology. Women had a status amongst the Vikings. They were not just húsfreyja, who the house, ladies of the house that basically controlled everything inside the house, and was responsible for obtaining the food. We also had skaldmeyjar, the shield maidens, who went into battles, and then there were the real warriors, the Valkyrias. Well, I don't know actually why they didn't talk about the Northern Lights. It's hard to say, but maybe it was like the Icelanders, or at least many of them are today, being brought up with them, and them being so common. They have to be pretty spectacular in order for us to actually take the trouble of putting out the lights and going out on the balcony or into the garden and enjoy them. But of late, I found that the people are more and more interested, paying attention to them. And no doubt, the interest of visitors have influenced us in that way. The oldest reference that I have ever come across concerning the Northern Lights, there is a diary kept by a merchant, is about 2,500 years old. And he describes going up to Mongolia, Upper Mongolia or Inner Mongolia, apparently, and he describes seeing green light moving across the sky. He recorded it faithfully in his diary, and it ended up in the library of the emperor, and that's why it was preserved to our day. Northern Light is what they are mostly known by. The official name, Aurora Borealis, wasn't coined until the 17th century by a fellow you have all heard of. His name was Galileo Galilei. Got into big trouble for some strange ideas about the Earth not being the center of the universe and actually moving around the sun rather than the sun moving around the Earth. Big trouble with the church. But actually, talking about the church, there are people that maintain that the Northern Lights are talked about in the Bible. And I've seen those passages that they have, where the light in the north is spoken of as such. But I do know that the first semi-scientific observation and description of the lights comes to us from biblical times in a way, actually 200 years before Christ, from a country called Greece, and a fellow that you have absolutely heard of as well. His name was Aristotle. He even offers an explanation what he thought they were or are. He was wrong about that. He thought they were a reflection of the sunlight in very high clouds in the sky. There is a phenomenon like that, but and it's a bit like the Northern Lights, but I doubt that he was referring to that. Aristotle had a pupil, and this fella was interested in optics. He managed to put together something that was could be considered a primitive binocular. He pointed it towards the sun. He saw that the sun was peppered with black dots, and those black dots, they are connected to the Northern Lights, to the Aurora Borealis and the Aurora Australis. We didn't know what they were for a long, long time. So, huge amount of solar plasma is being hurled into space in all directions. And sometimes it happens that the sun sends some of this stuff our way. It is made out of different particles, particles and stuff, and it travels at different speed. Some actually gets through. But what is interesting is that as this stuff is bouncing off, the geomagnetic powers of Earth kick in and pull some of them back into the areas where the magnetic fields are the strongest, around the poles, the northern pole, southern pole. When we have massive solar activity, we have huge auroras in Iceland. Iceland, by the way, is one of the best countries to see the Northern Lights in. Best way to see them is to find a dark spot. This is why people that usually come to see them, they are taken out of Reykjavik, where the yellow lights create a hue above the city that may diffuse them and make them almost impossible to photograph, because people who do want to catch a photograph of them. So they you're taken out, or you drive yourself out of the city, you find a dark spot where you're safe, and you can wait, because it is a question of patience as well. They are not just there all the time blazing above your head. For example, right now, there is a clear sky, and but apparently no Northern Lights at the moment, but a clear sky above Reykjavik anyway. So you sometimes have to show incredible patience. Thank you all for joining me tonight, and good night.